What's up, East Punks? It's Missy, and today we're gonna talk about something that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough. At least not enough that I had no idea about any of it, and that is dealing with extreme depression during pregnancy. We all know at least a little bit about what postpartum depression is, which is whenever you have really, really bad depression and other problems mentally after you have your baby because you lose a lot of hormones, you just went through a possibly traumatic experience, and now you have a new life and a small human to take care of. I was never informed that you can have those same feelings while you're pregnant, and it never crossed my mind that that would be a thing that could happen. Why? I don't know, but it didn't. And I'm just making this video to share my experiences and what I went through the first few months of my pregnancy to maybe help someone out there that was like me, that had no idea that it was a thing and felt so alone and awful because I was going through it. So I am currently 6 months pregnant, 25 and a half weeks, I think. And this is my second pregnancy. My first pregnancy with my son, Elliot, was absolutely beautiful. I felt like I was on top of the world. I was glowing. I felt so wonderful and happy and perfect. And this time just wasn't the case. So the first 4.5 months of this pregnancy were physically and mentally the worst time I've ever had in my life. And I've gone through a lot of really bad things in life, and this was probably like number 3 on the list. It was bad. I would say the first 4 months I was so sick that I thought I was dying. With my first pregnancy, I didn't have any morning sickness, any type of sickness or anything like that. But this time around, it made up for itself. It's because I got it like ×2. As soon as I woke up in the morning until I went to bed, and even as I was trying to fall asleep, I was so sick and nauseous and puking. I couldn't even breathe without throwing up. It was so bad that I was actually losing weight during the beginning months of my pregnancy, and I was not getting anywhere close to like the weight gain milestones that my doctor was setting for me because I couldn't eat anything, and anything that I did eat, even if it was small, it just came back up. And that was exhausting on its own, along with being so depleted of energy that I would fall asleep standing up if I was able to. And it got so bad the one day that I actually had to go to the hospital over it because I puked all day. Like, there was no break in between. I was just constantly throwing up. And like, I would take a sip of water and it would come back up. I couldn't even keep a sip of water down. It was that bad. And when I went to the hospital, they just gave me fluid injections and some medicine through an IV. And I calmed down, of course, because the medicine helped. And then after that, it kind of slowly just went away after a few more weeks. I want to say at least week 20 was when it finally started to go away completely. And on top of that came the monsoon of emotions that I never thought that I would experience while being pregnant because I had no idea that it was a thing. What, like I said, like you would think like, oh, you know, you might feel sad during your pregnancy. No, this was different. This was like, it was just awful. So the first wave of emotions that hit me lasted probably about a month. I had a few good days in the middle of those weeks, but not very many. And that emotion was anger. And I was so angry. Like, any little tiny thing would tick me off so bad. And like, I didn't want anything to do with my boyfriend. I would tolerate my family, and my son would get on my nerves so bad that I would just leave the room because I didn't want to push those angry emotions onto him because it wasn't his fault that I was being so miserable. I didn't really tell anybody about it. I didn't tell my doctors or my boyfriend about that I was angry. I was just angry, and I couldn't understand why I was angry. I just was. I was mad that I was pregnant. I was mad that I was sick. I was mad that I was tired all the time. I was mad that I had this life that I had to take care of and a child that I had to take care of. And I was just mad. And it wasn't like a mad that like you get over in a few seconds. It was like an all day, every day, I'm just constantly pissed. Awful, miserable Missy. And because I was so angry, I just, like I said, started pushing everybody away. And I would get into arguments with my boyfriend. I felt disconnected from my child. I absolutely wanted nothing to do with my pregnancy. I didn't care about anything about it. And I feel so guilty thinking back now to those few weeks or month or whatever that I was so mad, because nobody around me deserved it. And my poor unborn baby absolutely didn't deserve to have those thoughts portrayed on them from their mother. Not that they'll ever know that, but I just still feel guilty about it because I was thinking those things. I don't remember barely anything from then because I was just so angry. I just blocked everything out and just went with the flow because I was gonna be mad and miserable anyway. And then one day I woke up and I felt okay. I didn't do anything to cope with the anger other than just leaving situations and biting my tongue so I didn't start fights. I felt okay for a couple days. And then the tsunami wave hit me. And that one was complete, utter sadness and depression and anxiety and hopelessness and everything else just tied up in one, and it hit me full force. And this emotional wave, if you want to call it that, lasted until maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. And I've dealt with depression and anxiety and everything through my whole life. I'm medicated for it when I'm not pregnant, obviously not taking my meds right now. But this was different. This was one of the lowest feelings I've ever felt. And I've felt a lot of really bad things. This was just, it felt like someone took a black, heavy blanket and wrapped it around me, tied it on, and threw me into the ocean, and I was drowning. And I couldn't see what was going on. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. It was just this overwhelming, overbearing feeling of sadness and hopelessness and everything. It was suffocating. I cried all the time. And not just a normal pregnant lady cry. Like, I watched a documentary about a mom octopus during my first pregnancy and bawled my eyes out because she died. No, this was crying 24/7 because I felt an emptiness inside me that nothing could fill. And by now, I've had my appetite back and I'm able to eat things, but I'm so sad and depressed that I don't want to eat. I dealt with anorexia for 3 years ago, and all of those thoughts and tendencies and bad feelings that I dealt during that time were coming back. All of my emotions and cravings and triggers from when I was an addict were coming back. And I didn't want to eat. I couldn't sleep because I had these gnawing thoughts in my head about how I would be better off dead, how everybody else would be better off without me in their life, how I was an awful mother and I was this horrible human, and all of this guilt and stress, and it was dragging me even farther under the water. I didn't want to do anything at all. I would just stay in bed until I couldn't stay in bed anymore. I slept a lot, even if I didn't want to. Like I said, I was barely eating, and I felt guilty and awful because I didn't have the energy or the motivation or the mental capacity to play with my son and be happy with him. And I felt disconnected from him. I felt disconnected from my boyfriend. And I absolutely still despised my unborn child growing inside of me. But on top of it, felt so guilty and awful and depressed because I was feeling that way. Obviously, wanting to off yourself every single day, having suicidal thoughts every single day was a really low point. But I think the lowest point of that was whenever I considered aborting my baby. And I'm someone that doesn't care about abortion. Like, if that's something that you want to do and you need to do, whether for your life or a medical necessity, that's not my choice. That's something you can do. But me, myself, could never do that. because I would be riddled with guilt and questions and wondering for the rest of my life, not for any religious or political reasons, just me as a person. I actually would stay up late at night Googling if it was legal, how I would have it done, where I would go, how much it would cost, if my insurance would cover it, how to tell my loved ones about it, how to hide it. Like, it was bad. And I don't even know why I wanted that. I don't know if it was because of all the emotions I was going through and I just wanted it to stop. I don't know if it was because I was so scared to have the life of a new mom again, plus also being a toddler mom. I ended up having a breakdown and telling my boyfriend about it, and it didn't turn out the way I thought it would. It pissed him off more than anything because, I mean, it should piss you off if your boyfriend is excited and happy that we're having another baby and then you just come up and say, I don't want this child anymore, I don't want to do it. I understand why he was mad. I don't know. It was such a scary time having all of these thoughts thrown into my brain from the unknown about all of this. And I just thought that if I died or the baby died, my life would be better. How awful that sounds, I know. And towards the end of that wave, I started getting anger and sadness all mixed up together. And I would have arguments with my boyfriend about how I didn't want this life anymore and how I wished I would have died when I overdosed before I got clean. All these awful things because my brain was literally on fire and I didn't know how to cope with it. I felt like I was possessed. Like that, looking back at it and talking about it now, I feel like I'm telling somebody else's story because none of that's me. Like, I am not generally an angry person, and I'm not generally someone that would feel that way about a baby that I'm growing, that I wanted. And it was just, it's weird to look back on that time because it wasn't me. It was like my brain was hijacked and I was somebody else. And I feel awful about it now. Like, I feel so bad for all the people that were in my life that had to deal with that Missy. I don't know who that was, but it wasn't me. And then one day, after I had the anger, sadness mix of emotions, I just woke up and I didn't feel anything. Like, absolutely nothing. I didn't give a crap about anything. I didn't feel sad, I didn't feel angry, I didn't feel anxious. Nothing. All of the emotions just left my soul and I was an empty shell. And everything was like dull. Obviously I see in color, but it just seemed black and white. I could be having the best day of my life, but it just wasn't there all the way. That was also a bad time because when I feel that way, it makes me want to use. So I was having all these flashbacks and nightmares and thoughts and cravings of using again. And thank God I didn't go through with any of them. I just felt empty and nothing. I still kind of feel that way, but it's starting to fade. I'm at least not down in the trenches with sadness or anger anymore, but I'm just kind of here. I'm existing with a little glimmer in there. There's a little bit of sparkles, but it seemed like when I told everybody at my son's 2nd birthday that I was pregnant, and after having our gender reveal and finding out that I'm having another little boy, it kind of helped everything. It could also be because I was progressing further into my pregnancy and all the hormones and everything were starting to level out. After those two things started just being okay. I still felt numb, and I still have bad sad days and bad angry days, but not like that. I have normal sad days, normal pissed off days. And now that I feel somewhat numb, like partially numb, like whenever your arm falls asleep and it's starting to come back, that's what it feels like. My brain's just kind of not on fire anymore, but it's like smoldering. It's like the flames went out, but it's still burning. And it's kind of like static up there. Like whenever you turn the TV and it just goes to a no channel and it's white noise, that's what's going on up there. And I don't want to get rid of my baby. I want my baby. I am starting to get feelings of excitement and happiness over this pregnancy now. It's still, like I said, in the numb stage. And it's weird because from the moment I found out I was pregnant, after I got through the shock of, oh my God, I'm pregnant with my first baby, I was ecstatic. I told everybody I was so excited. And this one I hid for 5 months. and didn't want anything to do with it. Like I think I mentioned earlier, I didn't tell my doctor and I didn't really tell anybody else around me because I was so afraid that they were going to lock me away in the psych ward for days on end, because I've had doctors that's done that to me. So I don't know if that was prenatal depression. There's a couple other names for it, but that's what I'm going to call it. So I don't know if it was that for a fact because I wasn't diagnosed and I wasn't seen by anybody professional. Once I started calming down and like was Googling things like nobody should do, I started finding answers in the possibility that that's what it was. And I had no idea that prenatal depression was even a thing. Why are you not told about that whenever your doctor tells you you're pregnant or whenever you try to get pregnant or whatever? Why is that not like a pamphlet handed to you? I can't even tell you the amount of pamphlets I was given after I had my son about postpartum depression, but I was never told once about the fact that you could feel those ways while you're pregnant. I am generally a strong individual because of my past, and I have coping skills and a good support system, but what for the women that don't? What if the women that are like doing this alone, what do they have? Like, why is there, maybe I missed it. Maybe they told it to me and I was so out of my mind that I didn't hear them. But I was asked on every doctor's appointment after I had my baby, even at my son's doctor's appointment, if I was depressed or having bad thoughts, but not once have I been asked during my pregnancy how I'm doing mentally. And that blows my mind because I feel like maybe if my doctor would have asked me those things, maybe I could have gotten some type of help. Maybe I could have set up a counseling appointment because I felt seen and validated, that I wasn't just crazy. That's why I'm sharing my story, because I had no idea about it. I was never talked to about it. So maybe someone hearing my story can feel less alone. I don't know, I feel like I was rambling a lot, but that's what going through all that felt like, just rambled and mumbled and jumbled and pushed together. If you are pregnant and you're going through those things, or you feel like you're going through those things, even if it's not to an extreme, even if it's just a little bit of sadness or a little bit of anger or anxiety or anything else, be gentle to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Tell somebody that's important, that gives a crap about you, that you're feeling those ways. Because nobody should feel like they want to die. But a pregnant lady should definitely not want to feel like they want to die. Because I feel like if I would have told somebody earlier on, I wouldn't have gone through it for 4.5 freaking months. But I kept it all bottled up in this little glass jar inside of me, like I always do, and just suffered through it. I sailed through the storm and now I'm starting to see the rainbow at the end. And I shouldn't have had to do that, but I did. And it's nice to be out of that terrible storm and onto less rocky waves. But also, if you are the loved one, a friend, the neighbor, the co-worker of someone that's pregnant, be kind to them. Because you don't know if that girl is going through what I did and keeping it bottled up in that glass jar inside of them like I did. Like one little tiny thing could have pushed me far enough that I let those thoughts win. One little tiny thing could have drove me to drive up the street and buy a bag of dope. One little tiny thing could have drove me into harming myself. And that, at the end of the day, we don't want for anybody. So just be kind to yourself if you're pregnant. Maybe do research like I didn't about knowing the signs of when you're going to go through those things. Or just be aware. Thought that I was a horrible mother, I thought that I was a horrible person, and that I was just awful. But in reality, it's just your hormones. Being pregnant takes a lot out of you. And growing an entire little human uses a lot of things in your body. You make more hormones, you make less hormones, you do more of everything. And it was a really bad chemical imbalance. Be gentle on yourself. Be gentle to the pregnant women in your life. Help them if you feel like they are struggling. I mean, I do a pretty good job of hiding it. And I do a pretty good job of pushing everybody away whenever I think I don't want help or need help. Just hug them a little tighter. Make sure they're okay. That's all you can do. But that was my story of going through the hurricane of problems that I went through the first few months of my pregnancy. Like I said, I'm doing a lot better now. I'm excited. I'm happy for my baby shower that's coming up. I'm happy that I'm having another little boy. I'm excited, even though I don't seem like it. I just don't feel good today. I am doing a lot better, and I'm thankful, very, very thankful that I am out of that. But yeah, so I hope this helped somebody out there either feel less alone or feel connected in a way because they went through the same thing, or maybe even just spread awareness to people that have pregnant women in their life to check on them, or to women that want to be pregnant and didn't know that's a possibility. Maybe I'm just freaking stupid. I don't know. But like, now you know that it's a possibility that you're gonna hit rock bottom when you're pregnant. That sounded awful, but that's where I was. Sorry if this was all over the place and I sounded crazy, but my life was crazy. Still is crazy, but it was crazy then. So comment down below if this helped you feel less alone, or share your story with pregnancy related depression or postpartum depression or anything like that. Maybe even comment some coping skills or things that helped you through the rough times of your pregnancy. I don't know whether I want to say I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble about how I was extremely depressed and wanted to off myself, but there we have it. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to come back and see more videos of random weird things talking about my mental health problems and just my life. But okay guys, that was that. I hope you have a super duper fantastic rest of your day. Stay happy, stay safe, take care of yourself if you're pregnant, take care of your pregnant loved ones.